My regimen starts with Time Machine, which backs up files changed in the last hour. It's optimized for Mac OS. It's included with every Mac. You hardly notice it running in the background. And I use it as the core of my backup system, but it isn't enough for all the reasons you've heard already. If you want to do it right, you need to add one or more third-party backup or cloning apps, but you have to have redundancy, and you probably want a combination of traditional incremental type backups and bootable clone. All right, and that's why I've configured Time Machine to back up to a local hard drive and then to my NAS drive, my network attached storage drive. And it alternates between the two, so when I back up at 10 a.m. it backs up to the local USB disk, at 11 o'clock to the wireless disk, at noon to the local disk, at 1 o'clock to the wireless disk, and so on and so on. So having these two Time Machine backup destinations is really a good thing, but it's still not good enough because anything worth backing up once or twice is worth backing up again. And having that backup in a physical location other than where your Mac is. Finally, since your Time Machine backups aren't bootable, it takes an hour or more to restore the whole deal on a different Mac, and even more if you have to install the operating system first. Enough about Time Machine. I've talked about it in many lessons. Really, I think you've got it, right? All right, now let's talk about what I use for my cloning and some of my other backups. I use it to copy a lot of my media files from one disk to another as backups. That brings us to Carbon Copy Cloner from Bombyx Software. There's their URL. That's what I use to clone, duplicate, my startup disks automatically every night at 2 a.m., as I've said before. And the bootable clone means I can go to work anywhere there's a Mac in about 2 minutes. If something happens, if I have a crash, if my startup disk dies, all I need is the clone disk and a cable, and any Mac made in the last 7 years, and I can go back to work. All right, Carbon Copy Cloner isn't limited to just cloning your startup disk. I use it also to back up my photos and iTunes libraries, and for most of the offsite backups I do as well. I like that it offers a feature called Safety Net that preserves files that would be deleted or replaced by an ordinary clone. I rarely use it, but it's comforting to know that in addition to cloning the current state of the disk, it also retains previous versions of versions that would be lost in a traditional clone, and it sticks them in the special folder called CCC Safety Net. And that's great. If you have the room for it, why not? The downside is it can sometimes be difficult to find the file you're looking for because Carbon Copy Cloner creates a new Safety Net folder every time it runs. Now, this still gives me another redundancy, and you know how I feel about redundancy, so I'm okay with that, even if it is hard. It's $40, and it includes a number of useful features in addition to whole disk cloning and cloning folders, including but not limited to really good flexible scheduling, the ability to chain tasks, customizable email notifications, and it can do one thing no other app I know of can do, and that is create a recovery HD partition, a recovery drive on any Mac that lacks one, and sometimes your Mac lacks it, and if you don't know that it's not there when you need it, when you try to use it, it won't be there. So Carbon Copy Cloner can not only check to see that you have a emergency drive, it can also replace it or add one if there's not one already. Moving right along, there's a fully functional trial of Carbon Copy Cloner available right here. So give it a try before you decide. It's not like Carbon Copy Cloner is the only game in town if you want to clone disks. For many years I used something called SuperDuper from Shirt Pocket Software. There's the URL. And it's an excellent cloning utility. It has an uncluttered, easy to use user interface and lots of other things that are good about it. The best part, though, is that anybody can use SuperDuper for free to clone disks manually. The developer promises that's going to remain free forever. Thank you, Dave, by the way. But you'll probably want to unlock the advanced features for $27.95 and add useful options such as smart scheduling, smart updating, scripting, sandboxes, and more. Now, neither the free or the paid version of SuperDuper has safety net kind of thing. So it's a true clone. It replaces files with newer files. But as far as cloning goes, the paid version of SuperDuper does most of what Carbon Copy Cloner does at a slightly lower price. And of course, it offers free manual cloning forever. Not that I think you should clone manually. It should be automated, but it's up to you. Here's my take. If you have to think about it and then clone your disk manually, you're just not going to do it. And so if that works in your big scheme of backup things, the free version of SuperDuper is going to be fine for you. If, on the other hand, you'd prefer to have all your cloning chores performed automatically every night while you sleep, which I couldn't recommend more, you'll need to pay for either SuperDuper paid or Carbon Copy Cloner. Next up is Backblaze, which I use to back up to the cloud. I currently pay $5 a month for unlimited, secure, cloud-based backup. Now, you need to maintain at least one offsite backup, so take your pick. Either use Backblaze or another backup to the cloud service from, say, $60 a year, or use your backup or cloning software to create an additional set of backup disks and then store that set of disks off-site, somewhere other than your home or office. So that's pretty much free except for the hardware. All right, for what it's worth, since I'm a redundancy advocate, I do both. Now, speaking of hardware, in the next lesson I'm going to show you a pair of superior backup devices I have used for forever, for years, and can recommend without hesitation if you're going to buy some stuff to help you do this backup thing right. Onward.